Welcome. Today I want to speak directly to something fundamental, something that many of us overlook or try to avoid. We live in a world that often teaches us to chase comfort, to seek ease, to look for ways to escape responsibility. But the truth is, that kind of pursuit will never lead to fulfillment. You see, there's a simple yet profound idea that can change everything for you. The strength to navigate life's difficulties doesn't come from avoiding them. It comes from facing them head on. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The 7 signs that you are a strong person. Signs that are not about physical power or external accolades, but about the internal resolve, the mindset, and the choices you make in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Let me ask you a question. How do you react when life gets hard, when things don't go your way, when you're overwhelmed by stress, uncertainty, or failure? What do? Do you shrink back, or do you rise up? Do you take responsibility, or do you look for someone else to blame? In this speech, I'll guide you through 7 key traits that define strength, traits that are not about how you look or how much you have, but about how you handle life. These are the qualities that shape your character and define your potential. And most importantly, they are within your control. So stick around, because if you truly want to grow, to evolve, and to thrive in this world, this message is for you. It's time to face the truth. Strength comes from within, and it's built through the decisions you make every single day. When we speak of strength, we often imagine something physical, muscles, endurance, raw power. But in reality, strength runs much deeper. The first sign of a truly strong person is their ability to embrace challenges, not as obstacles to be avoided, but as opportunities to be seized. This is where real strength is born, in the face of adversity. It's easy to want to avoid pain and hardship. The human instinct is often to retreat from discomfort, to seek safety and comfort. We live in a world where convenience and ease are prioritized. But this craving for comfort is misleading. It's a seduction. The real growth, the real transformation happens when we step into the discomfort, when we face what we fear. Strength isn't developed by running away from challenges. It's developed by confronting them head on. Think about the metaphor of the gym. If you want to build muscle, you have to break down the fibers in your muscles first. That pain, the strain you feel during exercise, is necessary for growth. The body, in its wisdom, adapts to that strain and becomes stronger. Now think about this concept on a psychological level. Every challenge you face in life, whether it's personal, professional, or emotional, represents a form of stress. It tests your limits. But like physical stress, psychological stress, when dealt with properly, leads to growth. There's a famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche that often resonates with people when they think of strength. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a statement that is both empowering and, at its core, true. However, it's not just about surviving hardship, it's about how you respond to it. Anyone can endure difficulty, but how you face that difficulty, how you learn from it, how you allow it to shape you, that's where the strength lies. Consider the stories of countless individuals throughout history who have overcome monumental challenges. Nelson Mandela, for example, spent 27 years in prison for standing up against apartheid. But instead of being broken by that experience, he emerged from prison even stronger, more determined, and with a deeper commitment to justice and equality. His imprisonment didn't crush his spirit, it forged it into something more powerful. This is the power of embracing challenge. Now, you might say, I'm not facing anything nearly as dramatic as that, and that's understandable. Most of us won't face monumental historical challenges. But that doesn't mean we're exempt from the process of growth through adversity. The challenges we face may be smaller, but they are no less important. It could be the challenge of a difficult conversation with a loved one, the weight of an overwhelming work project, or the personal struggles we face within our own minds. These are the moments that define us. These are the crucibles that, when faced head-on, shape us into something stronger. The key is to recognize these challenges as opportunities. Too often we see obstacles as threats, as things we need to avoid or overcome at all costs. But that mindset keeps us stagnant. It is when we reframe challenges as opportunities for growth that we begin to see the true potential they hold. Strength is not found in avoidance, but it's not just about enduring hardships passively. Real strength comes from actively engaging with those challenges. It's the willingness to push yourself when the path is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain. It's the choice to face difficulty with determination, knowing that even if you don't emerge unscathed, it's important to note that strength is not the absence of fear or discomfort. It's the courage to act in spite of it, to use fear as a guide rather than a barrier. In fact, fear is often an indicator that you're on the right path, that you're stepping into territory that will stretch you, that will force you to grow. If you're never afraid, if you're never challenged, then you're likely not growing at all. True strength involves stepping into that unknown, leaning into the discomfort, and doing so with a sense of purpose. This doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean blindly charging into situations without thought or preparation. Rather, it's about understanding the value in challenge and being willing to face it, to wrestle with it, to emerge on the other side, not as a different person, but as a more refined version of yourself. And this process is ongoing. Every challenge you face is another opportunity to solidify that strength. At the heart of this, we must remember that strength is not some rare mystical quality possessed only by a few exceptional people. It's a quality that can be cultivated. It's the natural byproduct of engagement with the world, of facing difficulty with a mindset that seeks growth, not just survival. So ask yourself, what challenges am I avoiding? What discomfort am I running from? What opportunity for growth am I missing because I'm too focused on maintaining comfort? Embrace the challenges that come your way. Step into the discomfort with open eyes and a strong will. It may not be easy, and it certainly won't be painless, but it will shape you in ways that no easy road ever could. And in the end, when you look back, you'll realize that the strength you gained from facing those challenges was the true reward all along. Strength at its core is about engagement. Engage with the difficulty. Engage with the struggle. Embrace the challenge. One of the most defining signs of a truly strong person is their ability to take full responsibility for their life. This may sound simple at first, but in truth, it's one of the most profound and difficult concepts to grasp. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that the trajectory of your life is largely shaped by the decisions you make, not by the circumstances that surround you. It means understanding that how challenging or unfair life may seem at times, you hold the power to decide how you respond. Responsibility is a concept that, when properly understood, is immensely empowering. It's the realization that you are the one who controls the narrative of your own existence. It's about acknowledging your agency in every situation. We live in a world where it's often easy to point fingers, to blame others, or to find external causes for our struggles. It's the government, it's my family, it's my boss, But when you take responsibility for your life, you no longer rely on excuses. You stop waiting for the world to change, and instead, you become the catalyst for change in your own life. Now, this doesn't mean that life isn't hard, or that we should never acknowledge external factors that make things more difficult. Of course, we live in a complex world with systems of inequality, injustice, and misfortune. There are certainly things beyond our control. But here's the crux of true strength. Recognizing that while you may not be able to control every circumstance, this is where your true power lies. Strength is not found in your ability to control the uncontrollable. It's found in your ability to govern yourself in the face of the uncontrollable. Psychologically, this approach is deeply rooted in the concept of internal locus of control, the belief that we are the masters of our own destiny. Those who possess this mindset don't surrender their agency to external forces. They know that they have the power to shape their reality through their decisions, their actions, and their mindsets. This belief doesn't mean denying reality or pretending that things are always easy. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the recognition that while the world can be harsh, your ability to persevere and take charge is what will ultimately determine your success. A strong person understands that their emotional state, their reactions, their attitudes, and their actions all stem from their internal world. If you find yourself constantly blaming others, or if you feel like a victim of circumstances, then you're surrendering your power. The moment you accept full responsibility for your life is the moment you begin to reclaim that power. Bad things will happen to all of us, and at some point we all face hardship, but it is how we respond that determines whether we will rise or fall. The famous philosopher Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps, wrote about this idea of responsibility in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He argued that even in the most dire of circumstances, we still have the freedom to choose our attitude. Frankl's experience teaches us that, no matter how stripped of autonomy we feel, our internal world is always ours to control. In his case, the Nazis could take everything away from him, but they could not take away his ability to choose how to respond to his suffering. That is responsibility in its purest form. When you take responsibility for your life, you stop blaming others for your lack of progress or your unhappiness. You stop waiting for someone else to come along and fix things for you. You stop blaming society or the economy or your upbringing. Instead, you start asking yourself the crucial question: what can I do right now to change my situation? It empowers you to take action, to make deliberate choices that bring you closer to the person you want to be and the life you want to live. One of the most profound effects of taking responsibility is that it leads to self-respect. When you own your life, when you acknowledge that the power to improve lies within you, you naturally begin to respect yourself more. You stop seeing yourself as a passive participant in your own story. You stop living as though things are happening to you and start living as though you are the author of your own story. This self-respect is the foundation for all other forms of strength. Without it, your foundation is weak, and no amount of external success or praise can fill the void of inner respect. Yeah, it's also important to understand that taking responsibility is not a call to perfection. It doesn't mean that you will never fail or that you will always get it right. In fact, taking responsibility means that you are willing to confront your failures head on, to learn from them, and to make better choices moving forward. The key here is to take responsibility not only for your successes. Mistakes aren't something to fear. They are a crucial part of the learning process. To deny responsibility for them is to deny the opportunity for growth. In practical terms, taking responsibility also involves developing a clear sense of what you want out of life. Many people struggle because they don't have a clear vision of where they're headed. They drift through life without a sense of purpose. But strength comes from defining your goals and taking action toward them, no matter how small the steps may seem. It's about setting intentions and staying accountable to them, even when the world around you seems chaotic. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to live your best life, you will find the strength you've been looking for. The moment you take full ownership of your actions, you become free. Free to create, free to fail, free to succeed, free to learn. You are no longer a prisoner of circumstances, but the captain of your own ship. So, ask yourself, what responsibility am I avoiding right now? What part of my life have I handed over to others? Take it back, take ownership, and in doing so, reclaim your power. The strength to shape your life, to control your response, to direct your course. It's all within your grasp. The question is, what will you do with it? One of the most crucial elements of strength is having a deep sense of purpose. Without purpose, we can find ourselves adrift, uncertain of where we're headed, or even worse, whether it matters at all. Purpose is the anchor in the storm, the compass in the wilderness. It's what makes us wake up each day, motivated to face the challenges ahead, knowing that they lead somewhere meaningful. The strength that arises from living with purpose is not simply about achieving goals. It's about having a clear direction in life and, more importantly, a reason for why we're on this path in the first place. It's tempting in this modern age to think that purpose is something that can be bought or something that will come to us easily. We're often told that purpose is tied to external measures of success, career, wealth, recognition. But these are fleeting. If your purpose is solely grounded in external validation, it will crumble when those validations fade. True purpose comes from within. It comes from aligning your actions with your core values, with what you deeply care about. It's about answering the age-old question. What is it that I'm truly here for? Purpose is the bedrock of resilience. Life will inevitably throw hardships your way. Things will go wrong. Dreams will falter. It's in those moments of doubt and difficulty that having a strong sense of purpose becomes vital. When the road is tough and it feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, it's the clarity of your purpose that allows you to keep moving. Without purpose, setbacks seem insurmountable, but with purpose, those same setbacks become part of a greater journey, a necessary part of the process. This sense of purpose isn't just about having an ideal or a goal. It's about understanding why those goals matter to you. It's about connecting with the deeper meaning behind your work, your relationships, and even your struggles. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When you know your why, when you know the reason behind what you do, the how becomes more manageable. You may still face difficulty, but you do so with the knowledge that the struggle is worth it. It becomes part of a larger, meaningful narrative. Take a moment to consider this. When you encounter a challenge in your life, do you see it as a mere obstacle to overcome, or do you see it as a stepping stone toward your larger purpose? A strong person doesn't see adversity as an insurmountable roadblock. They see it as part of their journey, something that will eventually lead them closer to their end goal. And that end goal isn't always something material or tangible. It can be the fulfillment of a deep intrinsic need to contribute, to create, to grow. But it's also essential to recognize that purpose is not always clear from the start. It's something that can take time to uncover. Many people wander through life unsure of their purpose, feeling lost or disconnected. That's okay. It's not a race, and the search for meaning is part of the journey itself. In fact, some of the most purpose-driven people have gone through periods of uncertainty, of deep questioning. The key is to keep searching, to remain open to new experiences, and to be willing to reevaluate your purpose as you evolve. Strength comes from the ability to stay open and flexible, even as you grapple with life's complexity. Purpose also requires sacrifice. This is where many people falter. We live in a world that glorifies instant gratification, a world where people expect success and fulfillment to come quickly and easily. But purpose, true purpose, is something that demands commitment. It requires prioritization, sometimes at the expense of other things. If your purpose is to build something meaningful, to create change, to live in alignment with your values, there will be moments when you must sacrifice immediate pleasure for long-term fulfillment. The strength lies in your ability to make those sacrifices, knowing that they are necessary steps on the path to your higher goal. When you live with purpose, you begin to live intentionally. Each action becomes deliberate. You start to filter out the noise, the distractions, and the irrelevant pursuits. Your energy is no longer scattered, it's focused. This focus brings clarity, and with clarity comes a sense of peace. You stop questioning whether what you're doing matters because you know that every step is aligned with your deeper purpose. The goal becomes not just to survive, but to thrive in a way that is meaningful and fulfilling. Living with purpose also brings a sense of authenticity. You are no longer living in reaction to the world around you, but in alignment with your own values. You stop pretending to be something you're not, or chasing after things that don't truly resonate with you. Purpose allows you to be authentic, to show up as your true self. And when you live authentically, there is a powerful strength in that, because you are no longer hiding or masking parts of yourself. You are standing tall in the full knowledge of who you are and what you are here to do. But let's not forget that the journey toward purpose can be difficult. It's not always an easy road. There will be moments of doubt, moments where you question whether it's worth it. And in those moments, your sense of purpose will be your guiding light. It will be what pulls you through the darkness, what keeps you moving when the path is unclear. When you feel lost, remember that purpose is not something you find overnight. It's something you build day by day, step by step, action by action. So, let me ask you, what is your purpose? What is it that drives you, that makes you willing to face the challenges life throws at you? If you haven't found it yet, keep searching. And if you have found it, honor it. Let it guide you. Let it be the reason you rise every morning, the reason you push through adversity, because when you live with purpose, everything changes. Strength doesn't come from being invincible. It comes from having a reason to fight, to grow, and to keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles in your way. There's a remarkable strength in the ability to embrace discomfort. In a world that places a premium on comfort, safety, and instant gratification, the idea of willingly stepping into discomfort often seems counterintuitive. Yet true strength is not about avoiding difficulty or hardship. It's about having the courage to confront it head on, knowing that in discomfort lies growth, resilience, and ultimately freedom. When we speak of embracing discomfort, it's important to clarify that we're not advocating for seeking out suffering for suffering's sake. It's not about placing yourself in harm's way or engaging in unnecessary hardship. Rather, it's about acknowledging that growth and transformation rarely occur in comfortable spaces. To grow as a person, to become stronger, you must push beyond your current limits. You must venture into spaces that challenge you, that test your resolve, and that requires the willingness to step outside your comfort zone. Consider the process of physical training, for example. When you lift weights or engage in any form of physical exercise, the discomfort you feel during the effort is what leads to growth. Your muscles tear, repair, and grow back stronger than before. This process, though uncomfortable in the moment, is essential for building strength. The same principle applies to our mental, emotional, and psychological growth. You cannot build emotional resilience without experiencing emotional discomfort. You cannot develop intellectual depth without challenging your assumptions, confronting difficult ideas, and questioning long-held beliefs. And there's a profound psychological and philosophical truth embedded in this. Growth requires vulnerability. It requires us to let go of the illusion that we are invulnerable or impervious to challenge. In fact, the very acceptance of our vulnerability is what enables us to confront the inevitable. When you face discomfort willingly, you admit to yourself that you don't have all the answers, that you don't know everything, but you are willing to learn, to adapt, and to grow. This acceptance of vulnerability, far from weakening you, actually strengthens you by allowing you to confront the full range of human experience, both the joy and the pain. Philosophically speaking, this idea is rooted in the concept of Stoicism. The Stoics, ancient philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, understood that hardship and suffering are an inevitable part of life. They didn't seek to avoid discomfort or to shield themselves from it. Instead, they learned to embrace it, to endure it with dignity, and to use. They believed that by facing adversity head-on, we sharpen our minds, strengthen our character, and develop the fortitude to handle whatever life throws at us. It's important to recognize that avoiding discomfort might seem like the safer, more pleasant path, but it ultimately leads to stagnation. If you choose to remain in your comfort zone, you may feel safe for a time, but you also forgo the chance to expand your potential. Comfort becomes a cage that restricts growth. The real danger isn't the discomfort itself, but the avoidance of it, the failure to engage with the challenges that come your way, the temptation to choose ease over effort. That is where true weakness lies. Take a moment to reflect on the most difficult experiences you've encountered in your own life. Think about the times you've faced pain, failure, or uncertainty. Were they easy to endure? Absolutely not. But were they transformative? Almost certainly. In those moments of discomfort, you were forced to tap into reserves of strength you didn't even know you. And those challenges, though difficult at the time, have likely shaped you into the person you are today, stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This idea of embracing discomfort isn't just a philosophical ideal, it's a practical strategy for navigating life. In a world that often seeks shortcuts and easy answers, the person who embraces discomfort sets themselves apart. They know that true mastery, whether in their career, their relationships, or their personal growth, comes from engaging with the difficult and the uncertain. They are not afraid of conflict because they know that conflict is an opportunity for deeper understanding and growth. And most importantly, they are not afraid of change because they understand that change, while uncomfortable, is a necessary part of life's evolution. If you want to build true strength, you must lean into discomfort. This doesn't mean recklessly pursuing challenges for the sake of it, but it does mean confronting the discomfort that is already present in your life and choosing to face it with courage. Whether it's the discomfort of having a difficult conversation with someone you care about, the discomfort of trying something new, or the discomfort of confronting your own limiting beliefs, each act of facing discomfort builds your emotional and mental fortitude. And here's something even more powerful to consider. When you embrace discomfort, you not only grow stronger, but you also free yourself. When you stop running from discomfort, you stop being controlled by it. You no longer live in fear of what challenges may come your way because you've learned to see them as opportunities rather than threats. The strength you gain from embracing discomfort isn't just internal. You become less reactive, less susceptible to the whims of life's unpredictable nature. You become more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes next because you've already proven to yourself that you can endure and overcome. So let me leave you with this thought. What discomfort are you avoiding right now? What challenge, what uncomfortable situation have you been putting off because it feels too hard, too daunting, or too overwhelming? The truth is that the more you avoid discomfort, the more power you give to it. But when you decide to face it, to lean into it rather than shrink from it, you reclaim your power, you grow. And in that growth, you discover a strength that you never knew existed within you, the strength to endure, the strength to transform, and the strength to thrive. One of the most profound signs of strength is the ability to stay calm in the face of chaos. In a world that feels increasingly unpredictable and volatile, maintaining inner peace amidst external turmoil is not just a luxury, it is a necessity. The strength to remain composed in the midst of uncertainty, or rather it is about developing the capacity to control your reactions, to manage your internal state when the external world seems to be spinning out of control. To understand the power of remaining calm, we must first acknowledge the nature of the world we live in. Life is inherently chaotic. Things don't always go according to plan. People disappoint us, situations unfold in unexpected ways, and we often face challenges that seem insurmountable. Yet, in the face of this chaos, the person who is able to maintain a sense of calm demonstrates not weakness, but they are able to weather the storm without losing themselves in the process. This ability to remain calm is deeply tied to emotional regulation. When we are faced with a challenge, whether it's a personal crisis, a difficult conversation, or a sudden unexpected setback, our emotions can easily spiral out of control. Fear, anger, frustration, and anxiety are natural responses to stress. However, these emotions, while valid, are often not the most productive responses to a difficult situation. The true strength comes not in the avoidance of these emotions, but in your ability to pause, to take a breath, and to respond from a place of clarity and thoughtfulness. When we allow our emotions to dictate our actions, we often make decisions we later regret. We may say things we don't mean, act impulsively, or react in ways that escalate the situation rather than diffuse it. The person who is strong in this regard knows that their first impulse may not always be the best one. They recognize that they have the power to pause before reacting, to create space between stimulus and response. This pause allows them to gather their thoughts, to consider their options, and to choose a response that aligns with their values and long-term goals. Philosophically speaking, this idea of maintaining composure in chaos has its roots in Stoicism. The Stoic philosophers, such as Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, taught that we cannot control the external world, but we can control how we respond to it. In their view, the key to living a good life is not in trying to control the world around us, but in cultivating inner peace and wisdom that allows us to navigate whatever comes our way. They understood that emotions like anger, fear, and sadness are natural, but they also understood that we are not slaves to our emotions. We have the power to manage them, to direct them toward productive outcomes rather than letting them overwhelm us. To resilience. Life will inevitably challenge you. It will test your limits, your patience, and your capacity for endurance. But in those moments of difficulty, your ability to remain calm and composed will determine how effectively you can overcome the obstacles in your path. Stress and adversity are inevitable, but how you manage them is within your control. When you face a crisis with a calm and measured approach, you allow yourself the space to think critically, to problem solve, and to respond with wisdom rather than fear. This is the hallmark of true strength, resilience in the face of difficulty. One of the key elements of staying calm in chaos is the ability to manage expectations. We often become upset or anxious when things don't go the way we expect them to. We become frustrated when life doesn't unfold according to the plan we've made in our heads. But when we accept the inherent unpredictability of life, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress. By adjusting our expectations and recognizing that uncertainty is a fundamental part of the human experience, we allow ourselves to remain adaptable and open to the unfolding of events rather than clinging desperately to the idea that we can control everything. Another crucial component of remaining calm is the ability to embrace uncertainty. The desire for certainty is deeply ingrained in the human psyche. We crave stability, predictability, and order, but the truth is, uncertainty is unavoidable. The only certainty in life is that things will change, that unexpected events will occur, and that we cannot control everything. The person who is truly strong is not someone who is unaffected by uncertainty. They are someone who is able to face it with equanimity. They don't panic when things go wrong, and they don't need to have every answer. Instead, they cultivate a sense of trust that they will be able to handle whatever comes their way, and that they have the inner resources to adapt and grow through the experience. This kind of strength is not something that happens overnight. It's built over time through consistent practice and self-awareness. It involves developing the ability to observe your own thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. It requires the discipline to remain present, to focus on what you can control, and to let go of what you cannot. It's about understanding that while you cannot always control the external world, you always have control over your inner world. And that, in turn, allows you to navigate life's challenges with a sense of calm and clarity. So ask yourself, when faced with a crisis or challenge, how do you respond? Do you react impulsively, allowing your emotions to dictate your actions? Or do you take a moment to breathe, to center yourself, and to respond with thoughtfulness and clarity? The next time life throws you a curveball, remember that true strength lies not in the absence of chaos, but in the ability to remain calm within it. Your power comes from within. When you master your inner state, the outer world becomes more manageable, and with that mastery, you become not just a survivor of chaos, but a creator of your own peace. A strong person is someone who embraces responsibility, who understands that life's meaning comes not from avoiding burdens, but from accepting them and facing them head on. It's a paradox in many ways. We often believe that freedom is about avoiding responsibility, about evading the weight of obligation. But the truth is, the more responsibility we take on, the more empowered we become. The more challenges we choose to bear, the stronger we grow. Now let's think about this in practical terms for a moment. Imagine someone who refuses to take responsibility for their actions, their relationships, or their life choices. They might blame others for their misfortunes, point fingers at external circumstances, or complain about the unfairness of the world. They see themselves as victims of fate, and they avoid confronting the difficult aspects of life. While this might feel like an escape, it's also a form of weakness. It's a refusal to engage with the realities of existence, to confront the complexity and messiness of life. In avoiding responsibility, they forgo the opportunity for growth. On the other hand, a strong person steps up to the plate. They take responsibility for their choices, their actions, and their circumstances. They don't pretend that life is fair or that everything will always go smoothly. But they also don't shrink from the challenges that arise. They accept that life is difficult, that it is full of suffering, but they choose to face that suffering with resolve, purpose, and clarity. They understand that they are the authors of their own story. And while they may not be able to control all the events that unfold in their lives, they can control how they respond to them. The idea of embracing responsibility is deeply embedded in existential philosophy. Think of the work of Jean-Paul Sartre, who famously said that existence precedes essence. In other words, we are born into this world without a predefined purpose, and it is up to each of us to create our own meaning through our actions, our choices, and our responsibilities. Sartre argued that this responsibility can be overwhelming. It places the weight of the world on our shoulders. We abolish the species in rage, but he also argued that it is through this very burden that we find freedom. It is by choosing to take responsibility for our own lives that we transcend the constraints of fate and take control of our destinies. Responsibility is not merely about external obligations. It's also about owning our internal landscape. It's about taking responsibility for our thoughts, our emotions, and our mindset. How often do we find ourselves blaming our circumstances, our upbringing, or the people around us for the way we feel or think? It's easy to point fingers at others, to say, if only they had done this differently, if only I had had a better start, if only the world were a different place. But the person who is truly strong understands that the power to shape their own perspective lies within themselves. They take responsibility for their internal reactions, for how they interpret and respond to the events that unfold in their lives. This can be a liberating realization. It's not about denying that external circumstances can impact us. They certainly can. Life is unpredictable, and it often throws us curveballs that we cannot control. But what we can control is our ability to choose how we respond to those circumstances. We can choose to wallow in self-pity, to adopt a victim mindset, or we can choose to confront the challenge, learn from it, and use it as an opportunity for personal growth. Taking responsibility for our reactions allows us to reclaim our power, no matter the external situation. There's a psychological element to this as well. The more responsibility we take on, the more our sense of agency increases. Agency is the ability to act independently, to make choices, and to create outcomes. When we take responsibility, we affirm our ability to make a difference, to shape our lives and our environment. On the flip side, when we avoid responsibility, we undermine our own sense of agency. We place ourselves in a passive role, waiting for life to happen to us rather than actively engaging with it. Consider the role of responsibility in personal growth. Every time you choose to take responsibility for something, whether it's a difficult decision, a challenging project, or a personal relationship, you grow, you develop new skills, you learn more about yourself, and you discover strengths you didn't know you had. Responsibility pushes you beyond your current boundaries, forces you to confront your fears and insecurities, and helps you evolve into a more capable, more resilient person. And by taking on challenges and facing them with integrity, you gradually expand your capacity to handle even greater responsibilities. It's a process of continuous growth, one that makes you stronger over time. And here's another critical aspect. Responsibility fosters trust. People are drawn to those who take ownership of their actions and their lives. When you embrace responsibility, you become someone others can rely on, whether in your career, your friendships, or your family. Taking responsibility builds respect and credibility. People respect those who show up, who follow through, who take ownership of their mistakes and successes alike. It's this trust that forms the foundation of strong, meaningful relationships. It's what enables collaboration, partnership, and growth in every area of life. Taking responsibility doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean that you will always get everything right or that you will never make mistakes. On the contrary, accepting responsibility means acknowledging that you will fall short sometimes, but that you are willing to learn from those mistakes and continue moving forward. It means being accountable for your actions, both the good and the bad, and using those experiences as a means of growth. Ultimately, embracing responsibility is about acknowledging that life is complex, messy, and unpredictable, and that this is exactly what makes it meaningful. It's about stepping into the fullness of life with all its challenges, its joys, and its inevitable difficulties. The person who is truly strong does not shy away from responsibility, they embrace it, knowing that in doing so, they are not only shaping their own destiny, but also contributing to the world in a meaningful way. So I ask you, what responsibilities are you avoiding right now? What challenges have you been reluctant to confront because they feel too heavy, too difficult, or too overwhelming? Understand this, the more you take responsibility, the more you claim your own power, the more you face what needs to be faced, the more you grow. And in this process, you will discover a strength within yourself that you never knew existed. A strength born not from avoiding responsibility, but from embracing it fully. When you take responsibility for your life, you take control of your future. And that is where true power lies.